Hey guys, how's it going? It's 8-Bit Eric. Welcome back to the channel. And when I found out about the PlayStation 5 launch lineup and I saw the showcase that showed off some of the games, there was one game that caught my eye. Godfall. I was like, alright, this looks pretty cool. Looks like a gothic fantasy setting with people clad in armor with big swords, and there's a hack and slash element, and it just looked like something that would pique my interest. In fact, the showcase showed off quite a bit of gameplay of this, and I was like, alright, I'm going to check it out. But then in the weeks leading up to it, I started hearing mixed reactions about Godfall from people, not just in my live streams, but all around. People were saying that the company that made this game, which is called Gearbox, they just didn't really care for that developer. They said quite often Gearbox lets them down when it comes to video games. And I was like, alright, that's fair enough, but I'm still going to give it a chance. There was just something about Godfall that caught my attention. So in this game, you're basically saving your world, which is called Aperion. You are the last of Valerian knights that are masters of combat. They're equipped with legendary armor that are called Valor plates. Now, this game kind of is in a high fantasy setting. The world is split into elements of earth, water, air, fire, spirit, you know, the whole Captain Planet shebang. And it's actually kind of cool. The atmosphere is what attracted my attention the most. I'm into stuff like Skyrim and Dragon Age and real gothic dark settings, so I felt Godfall had a unique look to it. And I was like, okay, this kind of looks like it might be like Dark Souls as well. It's a third-person game. I would say, if I was to describe it, it's a looter and hack and slash game. It encourages you to chase down legendary items and armor, and it emphasizes on melee combat. So based on whatever your loadout is for your character, you have two primary weapons. They could be swords, hammers, different types of weapons that you loot as you progress. They're randomly energized when you when you open up a chest or somehow manage to get these items. Now, there is 3-player co-op with a drop-in, drop-out internet system. I feel that this online mechanic is what they really wanted to focus on, and it seemed like that with all the gameplay videos that I watched. But I tried to get in an online game. I tried to invite friends, and it literally seems like nobody that's on my PlayStation friend list has this game at all. That nobody had any interest in it, and it's a bummer. I've heard people make reviews about this saying this is probably one of the worst PlayStation games out there, and I would say that's debatable. As far as a game that does not perform well, that doesn't look good at all, I'm gonna have to say I don't think this is the worst PlayStation game, but I have my reasons. Now let's get into the bad real quick. I'm gonna talk about performance issues. At first initial impression, the game loads incredibly fast, and when you're out there and you're looking at the graphics, this game just has a unique color palette that just really pops out. You'll see the golds, the oranges, and it just looks like, you know, real bright colorful type of look to it. As I start all over my words. In other words, this game looks shiny and looks amazing, and at first glance, it's like, alright, not half bad. But once you start getting into the thick of things and you start encountering enemies, that's where there's some slight issues as far as frame rate. I noticed between battles or between enemies, when you're doing like the finishing blow to an enemy, the game kind of does like a pause, like where it's trying to load whatever's going to pop up on the screen, whether it's an item that you find or some kind of like leveling up system or just kind of locking on to the next enemy that's on screen. The game kind of does like a stutter, especially in combat. So let's say you're fighting like 4 or 5 different enemies at once on screen. It's going to do like a stutter, like a quick pause. And it's not exactly game breaking, but it is concerning, especially when you're in the middle of it. You're like, ugh. It just felt like the game was going to crash at any second. Luckily, I didn't experience any crashes, but you'll see it. It's a small little nitpick that only happens mostly during combat. Sometimes when you're opening loot chest, it happens as well. Other than that, the game looks and performs fine. The cutscenes look amazing in this game. Again, the way that the atmosphere, the attention to detail, not half bad. The one downside I would say as far as graphics go is that the characters, as far as like the enemy models, they look kind of plain. They look like generic, run-of-the-mill, stock enemies that have no personality, no quirks. Honestly, sometimes really boring to look at. I would expect that the boss fights, although they are bigger characters in nature, they're still kind of like not really that great to look at. Like after a while, everything starts to look the same, and that's also the problem with the level design. When you're in some of these stages and the levels in the game, everything starts to look cut and paste, like almost like they just didn't try to make unique assets. Everything looks the same. Sometimes you can get lost and turn around. It feels like you're going around in circles because the stage just looks like generic, elements. You'll see stuff that you can break, like different jars and pots, and it's just everything looks all around the same. So I do wish that the level design was just a tad bit better. It almost feels like the game at times is kind of like an experiment or a beta version or an incomplete game that they really didn't try with the level design. But I will say the main gameplay mechanic, which is the combat, all drop frames aside, all issues with stuttering and the game feeling like it's going to slow down, the combat itself is pretty good, especially once you start leveling up your character, which is what I didn't really hear many other people that covered this game talk about. There is a skill tree system that opens up a huge amount of combat elements that make this game more than just a hack and slash. Initial impression, you might be like, oh, all you're doing is just spamming the heavy attack button in this game and not getting much done. But once you open up certain elements, you'll get access to different move sets, combo sets, and abilities that will definitely hypen up the combat. So I gotta say, the one thing that this game definitely shines on is its combat mechanics. But you have to play the game for a while and grind a little bit and unlock those skill trees to fully see what can be done on it. On top of that, you're able to upgrade your Valor plates, their features, stuff that they do with their skills, their abilities, their weapons can be upgraded. Whatever extra items and stuff you find, you could salvage and use those resources that you get from them to make your weapons even stronger. So there is some incentive to level up. Of course, just like with any grind heavy game, the RPG elements do force you to reach certain levels to access certain stages, especially for boss fights, because sometimes a boss might be kind of tough if you're underpowered. So you do get the chance to go back, play previous levels, get more loot, defeat more enemies, level up. It's almost like, not exactly like a roguelike because there is no permadeath, but you get to go back and replay the levels and find what you missed. Maybe get a chance to get better loot because the loot drops in the chest, again, are all randomized. So there is a little bit of replay value if you don't mind the repetitiveness of the hack and slash of the game. But once you get to a certain point of the game, it starts to really pick up and play. Now, I will say the plot of the game also kind of lacks. It's not that great. I would have liked to have seen a little bit more cutscenes, but it's not that bad. If I was to say anything about Godfall, I would say it's a passable game, so a 7 out of 10, but they just weren't ambitious enough with it. And I feel that the game, if I would have gotten a chance to play with more people, if I would have gotten to do a full-fledged 3-player co-op game, maybe I would have enjoyed it a lot more. But as far as things go, it doesn't feel ambitious enough. Like the showcase that they showed during the PlayStation 5 event made this game seem like it was going to be epic. So I'm hoping maybe later down the line they might add new stuff to it, new features, new maps. Who knows? But right now it just feels like a bare bones game that is passable but didn't reach its full potential. But it's definitely not the worst PlayStation 5 game out there. Now, you might be like, okay, Miles Morales is a much better game, but it's a whole complete different genre of game, first of all. For what it is, Godfall is passable, but it's not enough. I assume this will probably get a price drop rather quickly because the hype's not there. Not enough people are talking about it, but maybe this might pick up steam one day if they decide to update it or not. I think it's okay, but definitely nothing to go out and yell to the streets about it being Game of the Year, but it's definitely not the worst PlayStation 5 game. Anyways, guys, thanks a lot for watching. As always, I appreciate you guys swinging by the channel. If this is your first time coming here, why don't you consider hitting that subscription button and enabling your bell notifications so you don't miss when I upload. Thanks a lot for watching, guys. I'll see y'all on the next video. Have a great day. Peace out. Consider supporting 8-Bit Eric on Patreon for just $1 a month. Link below in the description. You want to become part of the hashtag 8BE Nation, guys? Well, be sure to pick up your official merch, now available online. Link is below in the description. We got classic t-shirts, tank tops, hoodies, and even women's apparel. Don't forget, pick up your official merch now. And while you're at it, guys, feel free to watch the next video, or why don't you catch up on one that you might have previously missed. Thanks again, guys, for all the support. I couldn't do this without you. You guys are amazing, and don't forget to subscribe and click that like button if you are brand new. Thanks again, guys. Peace out.